Welcome to another episode of Grizzly True Crime. My name is Gisela K, and today we're going to be looking at some updates based on Robert Kessler. Remember the killer, the murderer of Stephanie Crone-Overholts? There's been some new developments in that case, and let's have a look at it together. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you are new here, then hello and welcome to the Grizzly community. All you have to do to be part of this wonderful community is to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything Grizzly True Crime. Also, thank you so much to Ellen and Roxanne for sending me this beautiful bracelet. I really appreciate it so much. And thank you also to Jill for sending me the makeup and those other bracelets that I also wear everywhere I go. Thank you very much. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at a video. I unfortunately caught the stream a little bit late, so I couldn't stream this with you guys, but I thought we could go through this together. So let me put it on screen so you know what I'm talking about. We've got JB in the house. What's up, JB? Hey, JB. If you don't know what I'm talking about, Stephanie Crone-Overholts was identified as the victim whose remains were found floating in McKay Bay. So trigger warning on this episode. That was horrendous. I think you guys are aware of the case because it was at the time when they were still looking for Brian Laundrie, and then, you know, people were like, oh my word, they found his remains, and they were like, oh my word, could this be linked to him as well? Because body parts were floating in McKay Bay, and then they identified Stephanie Crone-Overholts by her tattoos found on some of the remains as well. And then they identified her killer as Robert Kessler. What a guy. But now it turns out he may have killed before. So the plot thickens. Let's look at this together.
Prosecutors say we potentially have two victims during a hearing on the gruesome murder and dismemberment of Stephanie Crone-Overholts in Tampa Bay. Hear what the prosecutors said about the discovery of a second DNA profile of an unknown woman found at the crime scene, plus the latest on the case here on WFLA Now. Hey there, everybody. JB Buno here with you alongside 8 on your sides, Justin Checker. Yet again, a lot to break down here, but we're about to play the sound for you. We're going to let a few more people file in here on Facebook Live. We're live on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, YouTube Live, and Facebook Live. We're going to let a few more people file into Facebook Live here before we play back this moment in court from Wednesday, a very key moment where the prosecutors mentioned that a DNA profile of a second female, unknown identity, was found at the same murder scene of Stephanie Crone-Overholts, of course, that we have been reporting on over the last several days. And Justin, you were there in court. This is
that is a picture of the killer, Robert Kessler. And this man invited Stephanie Crone-Overholts to stay with him at his house. He met her in a parking lot at a McDonald's. He lives in Lutz, in Florida. And he said, oh my word, you seem down and out. You're living out of your car. Why not come live with me? And then he murdered her.
Pretty big revelation that we have from the Tampa courtroom yesterday.
And this came toward the end of the 2-hour pre-trial detention here. We had the breaking news yesterday. The judge granted the state's motion to keep Robert Kessler locked up without bond until trial. And we're about to play for the clip as a few more of you join us in this audience. And this was towards the end of the hearing when Assistant State Attorney Scott Harmon was making the case as to why Robert Kessler should be kept behind bars. And he dropped this stunning revelation at the end, JB. A lot of what was said during court, we knew from the arrest warrant, we knew from the state's motion. But this moment at the end was a bit of a surprise for all of us who were sitting there in the courtroom.
So first, you're going to hear from the state prosecutor, and that state prosecutor, I have my name here in the notes, and then of course you're going to hear from the public defender here in response as well, plus the judge and her reasoning as to why that it's not included necessarily in yesterday's hearing. But here again,
Okay, we're waiting for this key moment. I'm glad that I waited to report on this because I've been watching what's been going on with him. And yes, he was held without bond. He was supposedly going to go to jail for a very long time. To prison, I should say. But awaiting trial, and now they find more DNA at his house? This is so scary. And remember that little girl that was living with him? We'll find out more about that as well.
Let's play back this now. This is the sound from yesterday inside the court hearing on the discovery of a second DNA profile of a second unknown woman found at the crime scene of the murder of Stephanie Crone-Overholts.
What I would suggest to the court, that alone indicates a disregard for the safety of the community. Also, the fact that we have an unknown DNA profile in the same area where her body was dismembered. Now, we don't know for a fact whose DNA that is, but we know it's a female's and it's not his, the defendant's, and it's contained within an area of blood.
Sorry for interrupting. If you want to go watch the full thing, I've linked it below. Just go watch the full thing without my interruptions. Most of you are here for my interruptions. So, oh my word. DNA of a second unknown female was found at the exact place where he dismembered the body of Stephanie Crone-Overholts. That's scary. That to me implies he may have dismembered before. We can't, I'm just speculating. We don't know that yet, but that sounds scary.
And it's not the victim. I think, and I would suggest to the court, that alone shows a disregard for the safety of the community, that now we potentially have two victims.
And this argument about potentially another victim because there's an unknown female profile, that's just, Your Honor, that should not be given any weight.
I'm not going to consider that at all.
Thank you, Judge. I won't go any further into that then.
So you heard there the judge say that they are not going to be considering that at all. At least this was a hearing on whether or not there was going to be bond for Robert Kessler. Robert Kessler, who has been arrested in the murder of Stephanie Crone-Overholts. That was the hearing that, of course, that we were talking about yesterday here on WFLA Now. But you heard there potentially have two victims, Justin, based on a second DNA profile that was found within the blood discovered at the scene there in Lutz, at the home in Lutz.
And this is in that bedroom area, which it's been reported that is where Stephanie Crone-Overholts had been staying, which is also, JB, the room where the little girl who'd been living with Mr.
Stand by. Did you hear that? The blood of Stephanie Crone-Overholts was found in the bedroom, which also happens to be the same room that the little girl was staying in. Is that what they just said? Oh my word, I feel so sorry for that little girl. Apparently she's with Child Protective Services right now. Oh my word.
Mr. Kessler, and that they were saying in that bedroom there together is where they found some blood evidence, Stephanie's DNA around the bed in the carpet area.
There's a lot to get to here still. You can use hashtag HeyJustin, hashtag HeyJB, and we'll feature some of. You might be a little bit confused. There's a lot to break down here with the ongoing story of the murder of Stephanie Crone-Overholts, and now potentially maybe there being a second victim based on the blood or the DNA profile that was found amidst the blood there at the home in Lutz, the home of Robert Kessler, according to investigators. So we see that a lot of comments. Hello.
Remember, when I first covered this case, I was saying because of all the serial killer books that I wrote, that this guy, you don't just randomly, generally speaking, people aren't just like dismembering people first time round. It generally would be an escalation of events, and he's been in and out of prison before. So his criminal activities and rage clearly have been escalating for some time. And he may have killed before. He may be a serial killer. That's maybe what we're dealing with over here. Let's just keep uncovering the facts.
There to YouTube, hello to Facebook. We're going to feature some of your comments and your questions if you use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJustin. But want to let you know that we have a lot more on this on WFLA.com. In particular, I want to note here some of the court documents that we have combed through on this case. Now, digital content producer Heather Monahan passed me this note as far as the court documents, and we were reviewing these court documents, and detectives sent 3 pieces of evidence to the FDLE to be processed. Now, those 3 pieces of evidence, I'm going to read it here from the notes. Blood that was found on a pair of Kessler shoes.
Pair of brown shoes, yep.
Blood that was found on the mattress in the room where Crone-Overholts had been staying at the home there in Lutz, Florida. And blood that was found on a cabinet in Kessler's kitchen. So blood on a cabinet, blood on the mattress, and blood on Kessler's shoes. We don't know where exactly the second DNA profile, the second profile of a female woman who we don't know the identity of this woman, but more on that here in just a second. We don't know.
So, but they did say that it was in the air. In court, they said it was in the area where he dismembered his victim's body, that's really scary. Imagine if that's in the bedroom. Like, damn. That's a scary thought. You know? Anyway, no comment there. If you want comments on dismemberment, just read my Jeffrey Dahmer book, because there's a lot of that in that book.
Know the identity of that second woman, but we don't know also too whether or not it was found in the blood in the mattress, on the shoes, on the boots, or on that cabinet in Kessler's kitchen.
Yeah, a lot more questions coming out of this, JB. I was surprised that the prosecutor mentioned this. You obviously heard the public defender objected immediately, and the judge said she was not going to consider this statement as part of her decision to keep Robert Kessler behind bars. Again, JB, most of the hearing yesterday was the lead Tampa Police homicide detective who signed off on the affidavit to arrest Kessler. He kind of went through all the preponderance of evidence that they've come up with in this case, from the witnesses who say they saw a man matching his description, dumping the bins and bags, to that DNA evidence. Now, one thing that the public defender brought up was saying that the state should have called more witnesses, and was asking why they didn't bring the FDA analyst who did the DNA matching to come testify yesterday. But again, it was just the one TPD detective who took the stand there for about an hour and a half for those closing statements where you heard the prosecutor drop that revelation of a possible second victim.
So here's what I want to first and foremost, I want to clarify something. So I mentioned that the DNA was found in the area where Stephanie Crone-Overholts was murdered. The prosecutors actually said, I want to make sure that I clarify this point and correct this point, that the DNA profile was found in the same area where her body is believed to have been dismembered.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we have that right. Now,
Exactly. I would assume that would be the bathroom. It'd be very weird if that's in the bedroom, but you just never know. Are we dealing with like a Dexter wannabe?
we don't know whether or not the murder and the dismemberment took place in the same place. Really gruesome details here. We're talking about a woman who was murdered, and then, of course, subsequent body parts that were then discovered in Tampa's McKay Bay, and again, a person matching Robert Kessler's description, using bags and bins to dump the items within those bags and bins in Tampa's McKay Bay, as seen by witnesses. Let's
Okay, just jump in one more thing on the murder, because I think it is important in this case. We know it is a dismemberment case, JB, but the medical examiner ruled this a homicide. And we know initially they found the leg with the tattoo with the 3 names of her sons. But it seems to me, JB, the fact that they located her upper torso, which had these stab wounds, seems to be another key piece of evidence recovered, which has led the medical examiners to say it's a homicide. And we heard the prosecutor also say in court it's believed she was...
Again, I'm never trying to offer commentary for killers to better what they do. But like, what a dumbass to think that he could get away with this. You know, it really isn't Dexter. You can't just take trash bags out to McKay Bay and just like chuck it in the water and think you'll be fine. No. The body parts float. I don't even think he tried to weigh it down. He's just like, chuck it in and just walk away. No one will ever know. Dude, it's 2021. People will know. Right? The only thing that's shrouded in mystery is Brian Laundrie's case. Right? I know it's not his case, it's the Gabby Petito case, but like, oh man. Wow. Anyway, moving on. I won't digress.
Was stabbed to death in some type of struggle and had defensive wounds. So again, the fact that this body was dismembered, the fact that they located the leg with the tattoo helped lead to her identification, but also that upper torso was what the medical examiner observed the stab wound. So just there's a few more things that came out in court about how this fast-moving investigation is being pieced back together.
And of course, our audience will remember, folks who've been watching WFLA now remember that night that we were live from the Discovery. Eagle 8 HD was flying over the Discovery. We had dive teams in the water after a leg was found. That's what
set this
all off. Kind of the first coverage of from WFLA on this particular story. So let's get to some of the questions.
That leg with a shame. It sounds so terrible to say that leg. Her leg with her tattoos were found floating towards a fisherman in McKay Bay. I mean, he must have gotten such a fright. He said at first it was like a grayish blob. He thought it was a fish, like floating at him, and then he soon realized, oh my word, it's human remains, and then he called 911.
Questions and comments you can use hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJustin here interactively, and we can feature your comments on WFLA Now. But this is the big one. This is the one that we get most of all on this story because, of course, Robert Kessler had a 8-year-old girl with him. And Julie Mitchell from YouTube, hello to Julie on YouTube and our YouTube audience, hashtag HeyJB, where is the little girl? And of course, talking about that 8-year-old girl. So let's first and foremost talk about who the 8-year-old girl is, because we don't have anything concrete that says that this is Robert Kessler's daughter, but this is a little girl, an 8-year-old girl that Robert Kessler is believed to have been caring for at the home in Lutz, correct, Justin?
We know that, and we also know she's now a key witness. The little girl is witness 4 in the court documents.
Shame, she's 8 years old and she's a key witness. Can you imagine the trauma and the stress of that? I'm just looking up his criminal records and things here a little bit on my phone while we're listening to this as well.
That when Tampa police spoke to her, her story didn't match up with Robert Kessler's as to when they had last seen Stephanie Crone-Overholts. So she's now also a key witness. Her statements were mentioned by the detective. She was obviously not there in court yesterday. Now we do know from reporting this week from our colleague Jeff Patterson that the little girl's the little girl's grandmother and sister are trying to obtain custody. So the girl's aunt and grandmother are now trying to seek custody. And as Jeff reported the other day, she is in DCF care at this point, JB. So she's been removed from the home, is in DCF care, and she has relatives from her mother's side who are fighting for her custody. So I hope.
So I guess the question would be, where's her mother? Which I think they're going to get to now. But good to know that her grandmother and aunt are trying to get them into their care and custody.
That answers your question, Julie, as to where she is now in DCF custody, but her aunt and grandmother are trying to, on the maternal side, are trying to get custody of this little girl.
So let's show you some of the what we have here in this story. Let's pause it right there if we can. We're going to go back and play this. Okay, this is Stephanie Crone-Overholts, the victim in the murder and the dismemberment from Erie, Pennsylvania, who had met Robert Kessler while down here in the Tampa Bay area and had lived at the home with Robert Kessler in Lutz.
I'm going to back it up one more. He said, Robert Kessler said, I met her on Fletcher at McDonald's. Me and my little girl met her, and she had a Pennsylvania plate and was in her car, and it was obvious to see that she was homeless and stayed in her car, and she explained to me that her ankle swelled up because she slept in her car. And then he claimed he had nothing to do with her murder. She just disappeared because gangs were chasing her. Nice little story there, bro. He said they got a search warrant and they took my van and they're not going to find anything. There's no evidence in there. Okay, where is the evidence then? Oh, in your house where you dismembered 1, maybe 2 women. Dude, there is evidence that she had been in here probably, but that's it. They said Tampa police say they discovered enough evidence to show Kessler murdered Overholts. They said, in fact, we located some of Stephanie's blood in her car. Interesting as well. And we did a search warrant on Mr. Kessler's house where we found more blood and a pair of shoes. Oh my word.
Before her murder and just the gruesome dismemberment that we've been talking about here at length on WFLA Now. I want to show you a couple of other pictures here now in relation to this story. Next up, we're going to have the most recent mugshot for Robert Kessler. Now, I say the most recent.
Well, I would say that's a glow down and a half. It's not like he was glowing at all, but like, damn, bro. Whoa, the mask came off, right? Look at this guy. Oh, it's just ridiculous. He was living in Lutz, right? So Stephanie Crone-Overholts was 47 years old, and this man, 69 years old. Oh, my word. He's the man who claimed to be Overholts' savior. He provided her a place to live after Kessler met her living in her car at a local McDonald's restaurant. We did a map time on this too, so if you didn't see that episode, please do check it out. I'm going to link it at the end as well for you. Stephanie Crone's body was identified as the victim of the homicide investigation in McKay Bay on November 20th. In addition, Kessler has been charged with second-degree murder and abuse of a dead body. How old is he? Looking at his pictures, Robert Kessler's current age might fall around the late 60s. I believe they said he's 69, right? Kessler has been arrested in connection to the death of Stephanie Crone. However, he denies having any sort of involvement in her death. Right. Robert Kessler's wife and family details haven't surfaced on the media yet. I believe they have now. There's no exact information available on his personal life.
Recent
He's got a lot of them.
mugshot, because there's tons of them. I mean, we're talking about a 6-year prison stint in 1994 up until 2000, and then a 7-year prison stint, as we understand it. He was locked up for another 7 years in 2000.
13 years in prison out of his 69 years on Earth, and his adult life, pretty much. You spent 13 years in prison, bro. What did you do?
Correct, Justin?
Yep, that was what the prosecutor mentioned about his lengthy criminal history, adding to the reasons why he should remain in jail without bond in this case.
Yeah, so, and Elizabeth Rose James's comment, we're going to get to your comment here in just a second. We've got a few more coming in the Facebook Live comment section using hashtag AJB, hashtag AJustin. But now I want to show you the 8-year-old girl's, and again, we have this, make sure we have this correct. This is the 8-year-old girl's mother next. Correct, Justin?
Yep, April Thompson.
Okay, so this is April Thompson. In relation to, there's Robert Kessler, but we also have, I want to bring it up here, this is Stephanie Crone-Overholts, who, again, was murdered and dismembered.
Whoa, they look alike.
Here in the Tampa Bay area. And then one more time, here now is April Thompson. Now, this is the
Little girl's mother.
Yeah, and I bring them up side by side here because there's clearly a resemblance. There's clearly the two look roughly the same. I want to be very, very
This guy's got serial killer vibes, man.
clear as to who we're talking about. On your screen now is April Thompson, who, as we understand it, neighbors told you how she died and died of an accidental overdose. Right?
When I went out there the Saturday when they identified Stephanie as the victim, Mr. Kessler was not home. We did find his address in Lutz, and there were neighbors who had said police had been there. They did a search warrant, and then there.
Give us the address. We want to do map time. We've done map time of Lutz, the McDonald's, and McKay Bay, and the possible slight chance that the gun at Fort DeSoto belonged to Robert Kessler. Except that Stephanie Crone-Overholts, her torso was found stabbed. So it's very unlikely now. It's becoming less likely that the gun was tied to him. But the last Facebook post that she made was October 22nd, if I remember correctly, and the gun was found on October 24th. Even though the remains were discovered much later. That's interesting. But accidental overdose could also possibly, if this is a serial killer type profile, it would be accidental overdose. What do you think?
It was reference to this little girl, and I was trying to figure out who this little girl was, and all they had said to me was, oh, she stays there with him, and her mother had recently died of an overdose. And that has also been reported by the Tampa Bay Times in their reporting on this case as well.
This is a lot to take in. I'm going to see if I can do a quick commercial break. Just a quick one. If you like my content and would like to say thank you, the easiest way to do that is, of course, to buy a copy of any one of my books, or to buy me a coffee on buymeacoffee.com/Gisela K, which I'll link below for you. Thank you so much for listening. Nice, right? It's been a while since I've done one of those. Also, I'm trying not to sneeze. Okay, let's continue.
As well, JB. So again, that reporting corroborates what the neighbors had told me, that this woman had died, I believe, back in September. I don't have the exact date, but in recent months, that this woman had sadly passed away from an overdose, and she is the little girl's mother.
Very unfortunate. There's a theme of drug use throughout this story. Sarah Gray, who is April Thompson, the woman that you're seeing on your screen, April Thompson, her sister, Sarah Gray, who has spoken out.
She spoke with Jeff.
Spoke with 8 on Your Side's Jeff Patterson, saying that that the little girl's mother, April Thompson, they were living with Kessler, but says that the sister died in early September, which we believe to be, of course, by accidental overdose. She said that Kessler is a man with a violent temper. The exact quote: "He has a history of battery in April, and given how he could be easily irate and act out and threaten others, I would definitely label him as a vicious person."
What? A vicious person. Battery. Did we have accidental overdose from September? What? And then Stephanie Crone-Overholts was murdered possibly in October or November? We don't have the date pinned down yet, but that's scary.
So that is again from April Thompson, April Thompson's sister, Sarah Gray, speaking to 8 on Your Side's Jeff Patterson about Robert Kessler. There's a lot of characters here at play. We're trying to make this as easy for everyone.
Man, I'm glad that JB says there's a lot of characters at play. Because sometimes I say that when I talk about, even in the Summer Wells case, I'm like, there's a lot of characters at play. And then for a moment, I feel bad about saying characters. But sometimes they really are just characters. There's really like a lot of characters at play that you're like, wait, what? You know, even in the Gabby Petito case, if we look at Brian Laundrie and his family and everything, it's like, there's a lot of characters at play. My only thing that I'm going to interject is that no, the for sale sign outside the laundry home, that was apparently photoshopped. That's what WFLA said. It was possibly photoshopped, but it was a hoax. They apparently don't have that sign up. I don't know. Let's carry on.
To understand. But I want to bring in this comment from Crystal Kane. Hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyJustin. They will hopefully be able to use genetic genealogy to identify the second victim. And this is why, of course, we bring up April Thompson here on screen. We do not know the identity of the second person. Again, blood within the blood at the scene of the dismemberment was a DNA profile belonging to a second female, Justin. We do not know who that second female is.
But imagine if he's like luring women at the McDonald's. Imagine how many times he could have done this before. What? This could literally be a new serial killer. Not that there's a lack of those, but this could be.
Still right on the money, saying we can only hope that DNA testing can provide some clues as to who that second victim is.
Actually, this is also could be relevant to this, JB, and I give credit to our assignment editor, Rick Russo, sent me this as well. We have court paperwork that on July 12th, 2021, April Ann Thompson filed a petition for injunction protection against domestic violence against who? Robert Lee Kessler. So we have...
It's another DV case. That is so scary. How many DV cases have come to light recently and how scary that is. Oh my word.
Court paperwork that before this woman passed away, she had filed a protective order against Mr. Kessler. Just adding to this mystery in the cloud over what happened here and everything that led to this murder investigation with Miss Overholts.
And this is going to be okay. This next comment comes in from D Bagwell, and before I bring up this comment, I want to preface that there's a lot of unknown here, and we know that this is a difficult. When we're talking about an 8-year-old girl, it's difficult to kind of think about what might have happened within the home in Lutz. And we don't know what happened within the home in Lutz. But D Bagwell saying hashtag HeyJB, that wondering if the blood could be the little girl's. Who knows what he has been doing to her? Someone needs to talk to her about him. Has a psychologist talk to the 8-year-old girl?
So the one thing, when I remember from our stream last week that Jeff Patterson, who observed the little girl, said she appeared to be in good health. I do want to mention that.
And they said the DNA belonged to an unknown female. So that they would probably have the DNA of the little girl by now? I'm just assuming. Also, where's the body? Or where is the person? Where is the second possible victim?
Right, you remember Jeff talked about that she was the little girl who noted that he came to interview Mr. Kessler before the arrest. So at least according to what our colleague Jeff observed, the little girl appeared to be in good health. I think that's important to share with our viewers, JB.
And it's important to note that just because blood belonging to or a DNA profile was found in blood at the scene of the dismemberment doesn't mean that the second DNA profile belongs to someone who is deceased. If it
exactly
was a spatter of blood that was found, and that spatter of blood contains the DNA profile of somebody who, whatever story you're covering, whatever
these guys encourage me. Look, he's also on his phone there, Justin.
forensic person or a forensic investigator is working that scene, it doesn't necessarily mean, if you find blood, it doesn't necessarily mean that the blood belongs to somebody who is deceased. So we don't know whether or not there is a second victim. Now, the prosecutor said we potentially have a second victim because the DNA was found at the same scene of the dismemberment. But we just don't, based on the information given to us by prosecutors, we don't have enough information to say that we have a second. But you know, there's a lot to break down here. I mean, we're talking about a mattress that was that contained enough blood for them to, of course, send it to the FDLE for testing. We have combed through the court documents, and there was multiple layers of carpet Okay, multiple layers of carpet in the room. When they ripped up one layer of carpet, they found one or two more or multiple underneath.
Oh my word, that is so freaky. He's just like laying carpet over and over and over. He's quite cocky, huh? I think he thought he'll never get caught. Or he's already like, nah, I've already been to prison, whatever. Prison clearly didn't help him. I don't know if prison actually helps anyone. Let me know what you think about that. But I'm like, sometimes they come out worse, you know? Look at John Wayne Gacy. He came out much, much worse. He was actually in prison thinking to himself, you know what? The only reason I'm in here is because I left the witnesses alive to talk. So when I get out of here, I'm going to kill them. Like, oh my word. Wow.
That's not incriminating evidence, but when it all comes together as far as the scene of this dismemberment, it certainly is one that where you can almost envision it in your head, Justin. It's gruesome.
Wait,
it's terrible to think about.
Sorry, I have to make a major correction to what I just said, that I read this incorrectly. It was Kessler petitioning against April.
Okay. No, that's a good.
I apologize to correct myself from earlier. Robert Lee Kessler, being sworn certified the statements that he is the petitioner seeking the protective order against her. I apologize for that. I opened the email up quickly, JB. I just wanted to please clarify that.
That's so weird. I don't believe that. Do you believe that? I think he's my initial thought is just smart move. Be the first one to blame the other one to cover your own butt. You know what I mean?
That it was Mr. Kessler seeking, he was the petitioner, and April Thompson was the respondent. So apologize to viewers, wanted to correct myself on that, was opening the court document. But again, this is a document filed July 12th.
Even that, I'd be like, really, dude? Okay, then.
12th, before Miss Thompson passed away.
And this is interactively what we do on WFLA Now. So many times will we be live on stream, and folks who have joined us in our Gabby Petito, Brian Laundrie coverage will remember very vividly that a lot of times information still comes in. We live now in a world where information is coming in at all moments of the day. How many emails would you say, Justin, that we get on an hourly basis?
Hourly basis?
It's a lot.
50 to 60 an hour at least.
Staggering amount of information.
Yes. Even I can relate to that a little bit. I wouldn't say it's 50 or 60 per hour, but for me, it's definitely like, I would say I get like 50 or 60 emails at least a day.
Information to process, and a lot of it is all happening in real time. There could be developments and have been developments while we've been live on stream.
And each email is important. Each email I try my best to look at. Each one is packed with information, with things that I could cover, you know, cases you want me to cover. And I'm like, oh my word. And that's every day. So imagine like after a week, I'm like, what? Like, how will I cover all of this? I just do my best. That's all I can do.
So it's very important that we also issue those corrections, and I've done so too.
I was trying to glean through this, and again, once I'd opened the document, I'd noticed the petitioner versus the respondent. So just wanted to clarify that. Just another document in this mystery web of.
But you know what though? Yeah. You know what though? And this goes back to, and I mentioned Gabby Petito, I mentioned Brian Laundrie, and a lot of folks who watch our streams remember a lot of the streams that we did during that coverage, and how prevalent domestic disputes and domestic violence was in those streams after what happened in Moab, what happened in Utah. And that was a case where they were, you know, where it wasn't necessarily, it's never clear cut. It's never clear cut as far as when it comes to the response for an officer at the scene of a domestic dispute.
That's what's so scary, is that Gabby Petito was seen as the primary aggressor. But now April, the little girl's mom, who was also living with Robert Kessler, he filed a petition against her, like an order of protection. I can't remember the exact verbiage now, but, you know, he was saying she's a DV abuser to him, and yet she's the one who ends up dead. You know what I mean? It's actually so scary. My word.
dispute. You have to get, of course, all the different, portions of the story, and you have to have it all, tidied up as best as you can. But again, one more time, I just want to give you the opportunity.
See, someone else was also sneezing on their end.
This is now a complaint filed by Kessler against April Thompson. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's another piece that we now have as far as the history between Robert Kessler and those who lived in the home. Now, remember, the story goes, and I want to bring up the comment here from, I'm going to bring up this comment from Elizabeth Rose James. I've been living under a rock for a few days. Can you do a recap?
Okay, so I'm going to leave the stream there. I'm going to link this below so that you can watch it at your leisure on WFLA. But we did on this channel a complete story overview, including map time. Sorry, I don't want to cover the tree. Including map time. We covered the whole story. This is just an update on what's already been covered. So if you want to check that out, I'm going to link it somewhere now near the end for you so that you can check that out. But what a story to think. It was already shocking enough that they found human remains floating in McKay Bay. That was scary. And then to figure out, like, oh my word, who and what and where. It is amazing how quickly they found the murderer. And yet we're still waiting to hear, even though we know, who murdered Gabby Petito. But anyway, this case was pretty much solved very quickly. But then how much more shocking to think that he thinks that he was her savior, that he rescued her from a homeless situation. Yeah, and then he murdered her. And now that there's a second woman's DNA at the same place where he dismembered her. That is so scary. And that there was a little girl living in the house, an 8-year-old girl. Initially they said between like the age of 6 or 8 or something like that, but 8-year-old girl living in the house. Like, at what point is he doing this, and what did she witness? Have you guys ever seen the movie Chained? If not, trigger warning. It's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. It's a very good movie. I like the movie. It's a very good true crime movie. But oh man, if you do watch it, then you'll know why I'm saying watch it, because this guy reminds me of the main dude in that movie. It's so scary to think what a child living in the house might see, might witness, might even be asked to help with. Watch the movie Chained if you've got the stomach for it, and let me know what you think. Okay, so I'm going to go. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. If I look just a little bit tired, it's because I am. You know why? Let me put my hair like this. Because I was gallivanting all day, making videos for you guys. I was making videos in the city for you guys, at a lake for my Superstar Grizzlies. I hope you enjoyed the Grizzlies in the City video, and that you can see that's the type of stuff I do for the Superstar Grizzlies membership. If you want to join the membership, just follow the link in the description box below, or go to my homepage and just click the join button. It's that easy. So I hope to see you there, because I'm going to be doing a Vlogmas every single day, a video every day for the Superstar Grizzlies. Thank you so much to all the members, to everyone who supports the channel, for all my viewers, for everything, the coffees, the Patreons, the everything, the PayPal's. PayPal's still the best way to support me directly if you want to do that. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.